administering the oath for the newly elected or re-elected members. And Ms. George Davis, we will start with you. Please stand and raise your right hand. Please repeat after me. I, Deirdre George Davis, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the State of Indiana, and the laws of the United States and the State of Indiana. I will faithfully execute the duties of my office as a member of this governing body and will do so in a manner in compliance with the Code of Ethics of the Board of Education of the Metropolitan School District of Washington Township. So help me God. Thank you. Ms. Horth Kruger, please repeat after me. I, Tracy Horth Kruger,
I, Tracy Horth Kruger,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the laws of the United States and the State of Indiana.
and the laws of the United States and the State of Indiana.
I will faithfully execute the duties
I will faithfully execute the duties
of my office
of my office
as a member of this governing body
as a member of this governing body
and will do so
and will do so
in a manner in compliance with
in a manner in compliance with
the Code of Ethics
Code of Ethics
of the Board of Education
of the Board of Education
of the Metropolitan School District of Washington Township.
of the Metropolitan School District of Washington Township.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll turn it over to Mr. Michael Fagan for swearing in Mr. Stephen Thompson.
Mr. Thompson, please repeat after me. I, Stephen Thompson,
Stephen Thompson,
do solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the laws of the United States and the State of Indiana.
the laws of the United States and the State of Indiana.
I will faithfully execute the duties of my office
I will faithfully execute the duties of my office
as a member of this governing body
as a member of this governing body
and will do so in a manner in compliance with the Code of Ethics,
and will do so in a manner
in compliance with the Code of
compliance with
Ethics
the Code of Ethics
of the Board of Education
of the Board of Education
of the Metropolitan School District of Washington Township.
the Metropolitan School District of Washington Township.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you guys all for coming. A lot of these people in this crowd today are here for me, and I appreciate it. But I just want to point out the power of public education. So I'm going to pick on a few people really quickly. And so if you were ever my school teacher, administrator, or supervising teacher, please stand up. All right. She was my third grade teacher. Miss Carla Riley was my fourth and fifth grade teacher. Miss Mabel Lewis was my middle school assistant principal. Miss Laura Barber, who's the assistant principal at West Lane, was a math teacher at Short Ridge Middle School. And then Mr. Michael Burr it was my supervising teacher when I got my undergraduate degree for teaching. So the power of public education, we have been getting a lot of strife in public education right now. So I just wanted to point out the power of public education, and they're part of the reason why I'm here today.
Before we start our meeting before we start our meeting for today, I just want to say congratulations and welcome back to our two incumbents, but also welcome to our newly elected board member, Stephen Thompson. So again, round of applause for everybody that's coming back. I'll turn it over to Dr. Woodson. Is this?
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the reorganization meeting required in January annually for the school board. And I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask everyone to stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The Washington Township School Board has chosen to elect new officers on the school year in July versus annually in January. To meet legal requirements, however, the board must revote at the public meeting each January as a reorganization. I would like to open the floor for a nomination to re-elect the current board officers for president, vice president, and secretary.
Nominate Bill Turner for president, Tracy Kruger for vice president, and myself, Christina Fry, for secretary.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes with unanimous vote. I would like to move the gavel and the rest of the organization meeting over to the re-elected president, President Turner.
Thank you, Dr. Woodson. Next on the agenda is the approval of, I got to get my page here, sorry. Approval of July 2025, June 2026 Board of Education school, regular school board meeting. Any questions on those?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the 2025-2026 Board of Education meeting schedule as presented. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you. 5-0. Next on the agenda, approval of resolution for board pay at regular and special meetings. Am I coming?
They're new mics, so you don't have to.
Okay, so I can stay back. All right. So I'll repeat that. So the next item is approval of resolution for board pay at regular and special meetings. I'll entertain a motion.
Move that we approve the resolution for board pay at regular and special meetings as presented to us in board notes.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries 5-0. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the reorganization meeting.
So moved.
Oh, wow, that was quick.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. I'd like to call to order the board finance meeting, for Wednesday, January 8th, 2025. We'd like to start off with the election of board officers, or do you read the whole thing?
I just kind of do a little overview and then I turn it over
Finance
to you
officer.
for that.
Okay.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. President, Dr. Woods, and members of the board. This is our annual Board of Finance meeting, and there are 4 points of business during this meeting. One is that you elect the president and secretary of the Board of Finance. In the past, this is normally the board president and board secretary, but I'll leave that to your discretion this year. Number 2, we receive and review the investment report required by Indiana Code 5-13-7. This has been added to your board docs for the board's review, and I'll go through some highlights as we move through this agenda. Number 3, reviewing the investment policy of the school district. Number 4, receive and discuss the financial indicators report which is a more recent report over the last 6 years that's required by Indiana Code 20-19-7-4. And number one, we'll go through that, is the election of the Board of Finance President and Secretary. And I'll hand that over to you, Mr. President.
I don't have my things in here. I would like to, the first item on the agenda is the election of Board of Finance Officers. Mrs. Smith, that's what you mentioned. I don't have my sheet in front of me.
You can keep it the same as.
I move that the officers for the Board of Finance be Bill Turner as president and Christina Fry as secretary, consistent with the school board.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you, Mrs. Smith.
The next one we'll go over, we'll move into the investment report. Washington Township had $27.4 million invested in CDs for the year of 2024. In between $2.5 million and $6.2 million in separate CDs throughout the year in different banks that had different maturity dates that spanned approximately 90 to 270 days apart, ranging in rates of 3.79% to 5.57% compared to 0.5% to 5% in 2023. So we made a significant improvement in this last year for our interest earned. In 2025, we'll reevaluate these as they come to maturity to determine the best investments due to the current CD rates throughout the year. If we do not reinvest some of the CDs, they automatically roll back into our standard district bank account. Moving on, we earned the following interest amounts in 2024 in the following accounts. 2.7 million, a little over that in our regular bank accounts with a current interest rate of approximately 3%. 974,000 and some change in our certificates of deposits and money market accounts, earning the rate at that specific time. And then 145,000 and some change in our construction accounts, also in money markets, earning the rate at that time, for a total of $3.8 million, $3,837,520.67, which is approximately $1.5 million higher than last year. So that was a great thing to see for the year. So that is the interest earned report. Number 3 is the review of the district's investment policy. This policy is F200 and was revised by the board in April of 2024. I have reviewed the investment policy and would not recommend any changes at this time. Last but not least, the number 4 for our Board of Finance meeting tonight is the recent report from the fiscal indicators from DUAB. This is the District Unit Appeals Board that publishes this report on an annual basis, and we are required to go through this at this meeting. So I'll go ahead and bring that up on the screen. It has 7 different sections. Sorry, I'm trying to bring up this. There we go. And the 7 sections are: number 1's average daily membership. Number 2 is demographics. Number 3 is fund balances. Number 4 is annual deficit/surplus. Number 5 is fund balances as a percent of expenditures. Number 6 is revenue by type. And number 7 is operating revenue as percent of total revenue. I'll go through each one of these as we're scrolling through the screen here. The first one that you'll see is just our regular information at the top here for Washington Township. Our average daily membership from the last school year. And here on the grid, you'll see our trend from our average daily membership. And this is our main funding, contributes to our main funding in our education fund based on a basic grant, and it's the state tuition formula. So you'll see here over from 2017 to approximately 2023, you'll see a decline. However, we have increased over 837 students since 2023. So this does not show the current year because this is a year behind's report, but happy to report in the last 2 years, we have increased 837 students. So that's great. Next, you will see the demographics. This is a new report they have added. You're used to seeing 6 indicators. This is the 7th indicator that they added this year. And this shows the difference between free and reduced lunch, special education, and English language learners. And you'll see where we have remained stable within several percentage points and a slight increase in our English language learners. We all know, like I said, this is a year behind, so we know even in this last year that we had a significant increase in our English language learners. So you'll see that reflected on next year's report and see that more of an increase in that particular area. Next, you see fund balances for the district. And one thing that I like to point out is these grids that you see here, these lines, these gray ones, and see how those increased. That is because that is due to our our capital referendums. We have 2 4 years apart, 2016 and 2020. So that's why you see that increase in those particular fund balances. And the others throughout the district has remained stable since then. The other caveat that was in addition was the federal stimulus funds, and that was due to ESSER. We had a CARES 1 and an ESSER 2 and an ESSER 3. So those all have completed in 2024. Next, you'll see the annual deficit surplus report. And this graph shows more of an increase in expenditures. And that is due to the referendum construction dollars, the addition of those, and the ESSER dollars. So sometimes if someone's looking at this, it can be a little misleading because of our district having the capital referendums and along with the ESSERs. So this will stabilize these next couple years after the construction referendums have completed and all the expenses are paid, and then you'll see that stable. But all the other funds within the district have remained stable. And then you'll see here the fund percentages as a percent of expenditures. And that too, you'll see here where you had that increase, and that was when the 2020 referendum was recently passed and we started more construction projects and paying for those expenditures. And then you'll see it start leveling off in the next couple years. The next one is the revenue by type. This also reflects all the different types of funding that we get from revenue. You'll see here the federal stimulus money there at the top that made that increase. And then just regular other federal revenues, state revenue. These are all of our grants. And then other local revenues. Then you'll see our debt revenue, our operating referendum revenue, and then local tax revenue. So these have increased throughout the last several years due to the assessed valuation raising in our district. And also from the bonds and all that from the construction funds. So then you'll see here the last one, the operating referendum revenue as a percent of the total revenue. This indicator shows a significant increase in operating referendum revenue started in 2017. You'll see that uptick there from 17 to 2020. We increased the operating referendum tax rate from 11 cents to 25 cents. And that's where you see the increase there and what that generates for our district. And that is the end of the DUAB report. I would be happy to answer any questions the board may have on the Board of Finance reports and information shared this evening.
Board have questions? Thank you, Mrs. Smith. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the finance meeting.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Finance meeting. Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Now I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for Board of Education for January 8th, 2025. And the first item on the agenda is January recognitions. Dr. Taylor.
All right, good evening, President Turner, Dr. Woodson, members of the board, and welcome to our Washington Township School community. Happy New Year, everyone. No better way to start the new year than a blizzard, right? We have a number of recognitions this evening, so an exciting series of recognitions here. And we'd like to start with congratulating some Northview Middle School students. So I'd like to call up the following students. Vanaya Clark. You can come up here as I call your name up here and stand by Dr. Woodson to be recognized. Preston Peterson, Bria Gibson Ford, Gloria Bahati, and Joshua Thompson. You'd all come up here right now.
All right.
All right. So this is a student who participated in the Luke's Leaders 8th grade program, Youth in Government, which is delivered by the YMCA of Greater Indianapolis each fall. This year's Luke's Leaders had 12 students who participated. Over 10 weeks, the students learned about local government and how legislation gets proposed, created, and passed into law. These students identified issues that they cared deeply about and then wrote legislation. All of this under the expert leadership of Anders Kleiman of the YMCA. Is Anders here? Okay, Anders is not here. We would also like to thank and recognize some other key supporters and volunteers. Lainey Marshall, is Lainey here? Gary Chambers, Nelson Lentz, and Tom Lang. We know Tom Lang's here.
Yeah.
Come on up here, Tom. They all played key roles in making this happen. We look forward to the Leadership Summit on January 18th, where they'll bring all 5 of their active Luke's Leaders groups together. And again, congratulations and thanks for participating in Luke's Leaders.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Picture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Miss Jocelyn Sisson in the building? All right, we're gonna hold off on that one until maybe give her a little bit more time. We'll see. All right, next up, congratulations to Mr. Alex Lance. Mr. Lance is here. Come on up, Mr. Lance. Mr. Lance is a North Central teacher. He's being honored this evening for being recognized as he was honored by a first-generation college student from DePaul University, who happens to be a former Washington Township student of ours, Juana Bruguera Partida. She was selected by DePaul University as its Realizing the Dream recipient. Mr. Lance was named as the educator who was most influential in her decision to attend college. Since 1989, Independent Colleges of Indiana has sponsored Realizing the Dream, which is a program funded by the Lilly Endowment. The program is designed to recognize the achievements of first-generation college students. We hope that as a result of this recognition, our student will serve as an inspiration and role model for other potential first-generation college students. In addition to this student's gratitude, Mr. Lance will receive a grant check for $1,000 at the banquet on March 1st, 2025 to use towards professional development. So congratulations again, Mr. Lance. We love seeing how our educators have and will continue making an impact on our students.
Thank you.
Next up, congratulations to Mr. Steve Oslander. Allisonville elementary teacher for being recognized as the ambassador of the Kahoot Cup. Come on up, Mr. Alcindor. What began in 2017 as a small classroom experiment has evolved into a worldwide phenomenon, the Kahoot Cup. This year's event, held on November 21st through 22nd, brought together 4,400 students from 53 countries, united by their curiosity, creativity, and a shared mission to build bridges through learning. Spearheaded by Kahoot ambassador Steve Auslander, the Kahoot Cup is a shining example of how educational tools can foster global empathy and understanding. In its 8th year of gameplay, the Kahoot Cup remains a celebrated event. Each year, students and teachers come together for a live, virtual pop culture quiz tournament. Students from around the world represent their countries with flags, trophies, posters, and banners, engaging in a 30-question Kahoot, recapping trends, stories, and news from the year prior. Waving across the live Zoom video screen, students across all ages, grades, and ability levels corral for a collaborative, competitive, and all-around awesome live event. In the years since the inaugural event, Steve has themed the Kahoot Cup with a mantra of more alike than we are different, driving group success while offering trivia that transcends language and culture, including topics like global events, pop culture, and shared traditions. Congratulations again, Mr. Auslander, and we are honored to have you as part of our team here in Washington Township.
Did you got it?
And then finally, this evening, we'd like to thank and congratulate Moody's Butcher Shop and their collaboration with Washington Township's PACES program and partnership. North Central has 3 young men as part of their transition program that work at Moody's 2 days a week. Both these days are the days when Moody's get their shipments in for the store. The students' jobs are to help restock the refrigerated cases, clean the glass fronts, clean the countertops, clean the front windows, vacuum, organize the refrigerated cases, making sure things are where they're supposed to go, and making sure the closest dates are towards the front, and help label things. So this is pretty essential. Once the students are done for the day, the staff make a snack for them to bring back as a thank you. The young men enjoy working over there as they've learned very important restaurant skills, customer service, stocking skills, and cleaning skills. These young men have also gained more confidence in their skills while working there. The young men have a great relationship with the manager and workers who are extremely patient with them. Mr. Plummer, North Central staff member, has worked very closely with Stormy Kramer, Moody's manager, to communicate the needs of the business and the students. Together, this has fostered a great and meaningful experience. We're thankful to have Moody's as a community partner for our transition program. We'd also like to acknowledge Moody's CEOs, Bowman Elder and Lance Shade. So thank you again to our partners in Moody's. So if we have Mr. Plummer or Moody's here tonight, we'd like to recognize you. Okay. Get them later. Thank you. And that concludes our board recognitions this evening. Mr. Turner, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Next item on the agenda. I am struggling today. Sorry, folks. Next item on the agenda is School Spotlight. It's Mr. Pitcock for West Lane Middle School.
All right, if I could have Ms. Barber, Mr. Allen, come join us. And Westy, do you want to go up to the front?
The warmest person in the room.
Yes. Westy the Wildcat, our mascot. Dr. Woods and President Turner, members of the board, thank you for welcoming us. tonight to spotlight on Westline Middle School, who many of you are very familiar with. So we'd like to talk real quick first about our points of pride, our staff. Ms. Hampton, who's up here, and Mariah Brobe were nominated for the Black Excellence in Education Award. Carrie Jones, Mariah Brobe, and Miles Garrett, a former Wesleyan student and North Central grad, completed their administrator program through the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Institute. Also, our counselors, Kristen Bostic, another Wesleyan North Central grad, James Hughes and Jen Patzel achieved the Indiana School Counselors Association Bronze Medal status for their Carrying the Torch work. For our students, our show choir Bluettes, they brought home so many trophies last year. They placed second runner-up in the Ben Davis Show Choir competition and won the Kings Island Show Choir competition last May. Both Advanced Orchestra and Band received gold with distinction at ISMA. Noah Rogers, who's a current 8th grader here at Wesleyan, he was the first Wildcat to win the Wesleyan Roundup in 30 years. And that's actually, listen, I've got Coach Rogers, who's been here for 30 years, and he assured me that he has never had a Wesleyan runner, male runner, win it. And our hope is, too, he's going to follow in the footsteps of Cole Hawker, who actually in 2015 won it from Lawrence from Fall Creek. So hopefully he wins a gold medal in 10. Lucy Mann, who's a current freshman at North Central, was the second Wildcat in a row to make national finals of National History Day. That makes Westy very happy. He likes social studies. On our school community, City Life continues to expand their influence and presences in our school community. Luke's Leaders, who's also here tonight, they've expanded the program into 7th and 8th grade students. Omega Lamplighters donated over 250 turkey dinners to the Wesleyan community for Thanksgiving. And then our Wesleyan PTO, our staff, the Omega Lamplighters, and Wesleyan parents in general were able to donate to our Adopt a Wildcat Christmas gift program. We're able to buy many gifts for many families in need over the last year. So we're super excited to have them as part of that. All right, for our focus on equitable achievement. In the iLearn for last spring, our math proficiency was up over 6%, 6.85%. ELA proficiency was 1.31% plus, and increased science proficiency for special ed, ENL, and Hispanic subgroups. Our enrollment honors classes for the Hispanic and Black students are the highest in all middle schools and North Central, and this also does not include AVID and AVID Excel, which mirrors our demographics. Specific areas of continued growth to attain equitable achievement, we need to continue to ensure that every student is speaking, listening, reading, and writing within our academic content. This will ensure continued language development for our ELL students and our special education students. Our level of work we make the students locally needs to be at the level of the standard. Right now it seems more memorization, and we need to have the students learning at the level of the standard itself. Our promising practices are showing closure of the racial achievement gap. Our 6th grade teachers, Ms. Neff and Ms. Monroe, have had really good success using SIOP strategies. They had the highest iLearn pass rates for ENL, special education, and Hispanic students on the 2024 iLearn science test. We want to replicate that. Our teachers continue to use AVID strategies to help students organize their information themselves, which is clearing barriers for a lot of our students, so they have clear focus on learning. Now we have our special recognitions. I'm going to bring Ms. Barber, Ms. Hampton, and Mr. Allen up to recognize those people.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Stella Andrews. Stella is a social justice advocate for Wesleyan as she continually advocates and works with our PACEs and our Best Buddies students. Stella makes sure these students are respected in all areas and will address students if they are not being respectful. She is a friend to all, but most importantly, an advocate for our most vulnerable students. Thank you, Stella.
Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Stella.
Good evening. I would like to introduce next, I'm sorry, Dr. Shante Barnes. I'm sorry, my bad. Go ahead. Oh, my bad. Sorry. That's my
Perfect.
This is what's going on.
Congratulations. Thanks for all your hard work.
You guys ready for me now? All right. Good evening again. I would like to introduce Dr. Shantae Barnes. She has been an impactful parent for West Lane. All 3 years her sons, James and Jerry, have been here. She started out as a highway hero. She has since us student teachers and has been a connection to colleges in the area for us to tour. Dr. Barnes has been a great asset to West Lane Middle School, and we appreciate her and her family so very much. Thank you, Shantae Barnes.
You got it back?
Did you get it?
Congrats.
All right, we have Krista Jordan from City Life has been an honorary member of the West Lane staff. She can be seen during our lunch periods, working with our social worker and bringing members of City Life through our building, talking with our students and staff, and always looking for ways she can help with the West Lane community. Thank you, Ms. Jordan.
I'd like to know too. I'd like to know too that Chris was also honored by Eastwood earlier in the year. So she's really like Washington Township hero. So, members of the board, thank you all for letting us shine our spotlight on our school. Look forward to meeting with some of you tomorrow, and we will bid you adieu. Thank you, Westy. So-
Sorry, point of order. Mr. Pitcock,
All right.
you have something else.
Because the West Lane, every Wildcat, every day gets better. I did.
Love it.
Thank you. And tonight, the next item on the agenda is superintendent's announcements. Those that are here from the public, I'd like you to hear Dr. Woodson's announcements. I'd love you to stay for the whole meeting, but we'll also give you a chance to leave a little early if you need to. But feel free to leave if you like. Also feel free to stay. It gets even more exciting as we go forward. So next item on the agenda is Dr. Woodson with superintendent's announcements.
Thank you, President Turner. Congrats to our re-elected and newly elected board members. I am thrilled to serve with this board for the next 6 months. It's going to be a great ride. We do have a few announcements. First, for the 2025 legislative session that has kicked off, I have all of our association legislative priorities for you to review. If you ever have questions about any of those or questions about advocacy on any of those priorities, definitely let me know. I meet with most of those organizations weekly during the session. Also, as Mr. Pitcock mentioned, we are going to West Lane tomorrow for our executive leadership and school board visit. So the entire second semester lineup is in the sign up for your documents, and you're welcome to take a look and sign up wherever you would like to visit. Also, I've been educating the board last semester on the new high school diploma requirements, the vote that the Indiana Department of Education took in December, and we will be hosting a webinar that I highly encourage all board members to tune into next Wednesday to educate yourselves, not just on the diploma requirements, but Washington Township's approach and implications from our secondary leadership team. The entire community is invited. We're inviting anyone. We've had questions from fifth grade parents curious about what their future elementary students will be experiencing and required to do. So anyone is invited to this webinar, and the link and all of the details are in your documents. We also have, I received information about a potential apartment development in the Nora area. I've included what I received for your review and information. Also, Dr. Pettigrew was a writing contributor to the Indiana Association of School Principals newsletter, and it's a fantastic article, and I wanted to provide that for you as well. Congratulations to Dr. Pettigrew. And last, a very nice kudos came in from not a stranger to Washington Township, Dr. Ostrike, who complimented Northview on an incredible evening of basketball and community building. But I thought the compliment was very special, and I thought the board should see that kudos for Northview Middle School. That's all I have. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is time for us to set aside for public comment. So if there are any members of the public that would like to speak, now's the time. I'll get, if you, it's fine. We'll get you just a second. So just, I got to read some rules. So one of the things that when we have time for public comment, we try to keep the public comment section down to 30 minutes total. They're usually about 3 minutes per speaker. And it also, the rules around it basically is we can't discuss personal issues or people in particular. We can talk in general. The board will not respond to you in this particular forum, but if there's something we need to follow up on, then administration and the board will follow up. But we will not entertain back and forth at this particular time. So with that being said, when you go to the podium, if you'd go to the podium, please state your name and address, and then the podium is yours.
My name is Reverend Brenda Walls. I'm a chaplain at St. Vincent's. And I'm here because when Stephen mentioned the schools, the IPS schools, I was not a teacher or a director of an IPS school, but I was director of an after-school program that Stephen was in from the time he was a little one until he graduated. And I would like to think that he got all those leadership skills.
You're right, I did. I forgot.
So I just wanted to congratulate my son.
I think he can respond to that.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Is there any other member of the public that would like to speak? Hearing none, I'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the consent agenda presented by Dr. Taylor.
Yes, thank you, President Turner, Dr. Woodson, members of the board. I am seeking your approval of the consent agenda for this meeting. The consent agenda includes the following: approval of the minutes of the December 11th, 2024 board meeting, approval of 4 payroll calculation summary reports, a claims docket in the amount of $37,493,279.70, a human resources report containing, for classified personnel, 19 new hires, that's numbers 146 through 164, 12 resignations, that's numbers 72 through 83, 2 terminations, numbers 13 and 14, and 4 leaves, numbers 1 through 4. For certified personnel, there are 5 resignations, numbers 172 through 176, and there is 1 termination, that's number 2. There are no non-competitive grants, gifts, or donations to present for board approval this evening. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Board have questions?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented by Dr. Taylor.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Dr. Taylor.
Thank
I do believe this is a first to not have any other action items on the list, obviously because of winter break. But so the next item on our agenda is information items, and it's the district strategic plan progress update for priority number 2, hiring and retention of high quality and diverse staff, and priority number 3, partnerships and priority. Dr. Kaiser, Dr. Skibinski, and Mr. Nebo.
We've got a team presenting to you tonight. I just wanted to do a quick reminder that the last school board meeting in December, we had priority number 4 updated to the board. So community, you can review that in our broadcast. And then our next school board meeting, January 22nd, we will have a mid-year update on priority number 1, equitable achievement.
Thank you, President Turner, Dr. Woodson, members of the board. I'm happy to be here this evening to provide an update on our continued progress towards strategic plan goals 2A, 2B, and 2C. I will begin on page 14 of the document that is in your board documents for this evening, where you will find our mid-year data for goal 2A that has 2 data points. So that it's at the top of page 14. The first is our goal of increasing the number of BIPOC candidates who are recruited to the district by another district employee. As you can see, we've steadily increased this number in the last 3 years, rising from 35% in 21-22 to 49% in 22-23 and 57% in 23-24. At this mid-year point of 24-25, we are at 44% with a target of 50% by the end of the year. And I do believe there will still be a few more hires over the course of this school year. So based on our current progress, I am confident that we will meet or exceed that 50% goal by the end of the year. Our second data point for this goal is increasing the number of staff of color recruited via a job posting site, an organization, a recruitment fair, or other recruitment strategy specifically targeted to reach staff of color. Unfortunately, we've continued to struggle to find locations that yield success in this area. We continue to post on job boards that specifically target BIPOC candidates. We participate in recruitment fairs specifically targeted toward applicants of color, and we post our jobs on sites of organizations serving BIPOC teachers and administrators. This year, for the first time, we did have a candidate successfully recruited via a job fair that we host that specifically targets candidates of color. So we are currently at 6% at the mid-year point of our 15% goal. However, based on our past performance in this area, I am not confident that we will reach that 15% by the end of the year. What we're finding is that by and large, folks are finding us on Indeed and ZipRecruiter and not necessarily going to the National Minority Update looking for positions in Washington Township. We continue to post at those locations. We continue to do that, but the overall feedback is we're recruiting people by our own staff, which is our goal number one that is working very well. So highlights of the work that we did related to this goal this year. As I shared last year in my update, and that is at the top of page 16 of your document. As I shared last year, we had a great deal of feedback from members that thought there was too much redundancy in the work of our HR Advisory Council and our District Equity Leadership Team. And as a result, the HR Advisory Council work was brought under the umbrella of that District Equity Leadership Team. This led our HR team to reevaluate what else could be done to foster a sense of belonging among our staff of color in Washington Township and to gain their insight and feedback. And based on this, I'm proud to share that in November, the HR department hosted our third Collab and Connect session for Washington Township staff of color. And at this time, I'm going to allow Shauna Red, our Assistant Director of Human Resources, who leads that initiative, to share a bit about our efforts in this area and our most recent cultural collab event.
Well, good evening, Dr. Woodson, Dr. Turner, and members of the board. Happy to share that we have started as Dr. Kaiser mentioned, an employee resource group. It is called the Cultural Collab Connect. We started that group in January of 2024. It is, the purpose of the group is to support and to, is in alignment with our district strategic plan in regards to recruitment and retention. And so this offers a sense of belonging. They can collab, they can connect, and it includes minorities, teachers and administrators who are people of color and minorities. And so we have had 3 separate meetings. This year, we had our mixer in January, which was held at the district TAP. And part of that was to kind of introduce the purpose of the meeting and connect and network. We had our second meeting in April where we had it offsite as well, and that was in Glendale Library. And we had our foundation, a representative from our foundation, and Dr. Pettigrew did come and speak there. And then most recently, we had a panel in November, and that was held at the Paul Logan field house, and we had Dr. Eugene White came and facilitated that. We had members of our leadership who came and answered questions with the panel discussion, and then we also had a keynote speaker where we invited other members of the district to come and hear him speak, and it was Dr. Andrew Adeniyi, and he spoke about DEI efforts. And so this is an ongoing collab network of employee resource group that we want to continue moving forward. We typically meet at least once a semester. Usually it's between 5 and 7 after work. And so it has been helping with that connection, that sense of belonging, and all the other benefits of having an employee resource group. There's more information about that in presentation slides. You will find that as a link in the documents that you have, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. And to Dr. Kaiser.
Thank you, Sean. As you can see from the middle of page 17 of your document, we continue to work to evaluate each of our job descriptions to limit gender bias and to format them as skills-based jobs postings. I've provided our recent posting of the position of Assistant Director of the J. Everett Light Career Center as an example of that ongoing work. As part of this strategy, we continue to invite the board to join us for teacher recruitment events this spring. I've provided dates for those events that have already been established. There's only a few of them, but I will continue to update these opportunities, and we certainly invite the board to join us as we participate in those teacher recruitment events. We continue to work to increase our work with HBCUs. We're working with Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio, to join them for their spring recruitment event as well. And finally, we continue to work with our administrative staff on the behavioral interviewing process as indicated as a strategy at the bottom of page 18. You'll see a copy of some behavior-based questions we have used, as well as a SHRM guide for behavioral interviewing. We conduct this training annually with administrators. We'll do it again in March as we get closer to the heart of our recruiting and hiring season. At the top of page 19 of your document, you'll see our data for goal 2B, which is the retention of highly qualified staff. As you know, we've been on a journey with this goal as we set some very audacious targets prior to the global pandemic and the Great Resignation. As you can see from the data we presented, we made initial progress toward our goal. And then in 21-23, we saw a significant rise to a high of 13.4% in 22-23. That was certainly a very high number for us, but I'm also pleased to say that that number was actually well below the national average for that year. Fortunately, as you can see from your data, we've started to see a decrease back down to pre-pandemic levels in 23-24. And I'm pleased to report that the data from this year looks like we'll be a continuation of that trend downward. We are currently at 9.6% as a resignation rate for effective or highly effective teachers. And I believe that we're on track to come in under the pre-pandemic average of 10.8% for the first time in several years. So excited to see that number moving downward. As you can see through page 19 of the document, there's a progress update on the strategies. We again provided anti-bias and anti-racist training at our Elevate trainings this year. We had 61 total surveys in our exit survey strategy completed by exiting certified employees. That's a 69% response rate, which, as you know, we use Upbeat, which is a national organization for that. According to them, we are well above the average of getting folks to provide us that exit interview data. So that has been very helpful. As part of our 3-year rotation, we have 5 schools who will be participating in stay interviews this year, and those are identified in your documents, and the scheduled dates are on page 20. And finally, at the top of page 21, I've included our compensation memos for this school year. Since these are the last staff compensation increases that will be included in this 5-year strategic plan, I'm pleased to report that over the life of this 5-year strategic plan, a first-year teacher hired making $44,000 before we began this strategic plan would now be making $59,500 5 years later. In addition, our starting salary for teachers has increased from $44,000 to $51,000 this year. At the same time, There has been no increase to the cost of health, dental, or vision benefit premiums over the course of this 5-year strategic plan. Obviously, we know compensation and benefits aren't the only way to retain staff, but they are an important way, and we're very proud of the work that we've done in that space. As you can see, goal 2C is to develop and implement a climate audit tool. We have one in place, and we are scheduled to gather data this spring at the end of March and early April, as we have since spring of 2022. There's really no mid-year data update on this, as we always conduct the survey in March and April, so we won't have data until the end of the year. We do ask the same questions every year for consistency. The only questions we've removed is at one point we had some questions post-pandemic asking about our return to school. The one issue that I do want to share with you related to Goal 2C that I would just like to lift up for the board's awareness is we are also currently gathering feedback from staff as we work to develop our next strategic plan. Based on this, it's possible that a staff member could be interviewed in a focus group for the district strategic plan, could have a one-on-one interview as part of our stay interviews, and also be asked to complete the annual Panorama staff survey. So while we know feedback is important, we are trying to be cautious and thoughtful about survey fatigue. So working on that and trying to be cautious and thoughtful with that. So that includes my update on HR progress towards strategic plan goals 2A, 2B, and 2C. And now we will transition to an update from Mr. Kneebone and Dr. Skabinski on priority.
Quick questions on this? Do you want us to ask now? or wait?
We can ask him now. Gives us a lot of information, so go ahead.
Just a quick question. I'm looking at the survey data 23. I didn't see the 24 data in the document, but I just noticed there's a section for, it says school-based staff by school and teachers by school. So is that like classified and certified?
Yes, it is all staff who work within school buildings. So staff on the school end would be custodians, instructional assistants, cafeteria staff, all folks who work within school buildings during the school day, because the survey questions are tailored toward student experience during the school day, staff experience during the school day. So there are two separate surveys. The teacher version asks some specific questions about instruction that don't necessarily all appear on the classified staff survey site.
Okay, so then my next question is back to the actual QAR document. When you go through all the categories of benchmarks, you had this result, you go up by 8 points. If you had this result, you'll go up by 6 points. All that. Is that, it says, is that all staff or is that just teachers?
So it depends on what has been identified. It will say in each item, like for example, if you look on the item on 22, it says all MSDWT schools scoring 50% or more on the Panorama School teacher survey. And then there are other items that reference the staff survey as well. So it's individual. Some of the items are measuring benchmarks and scores from the teacher survey. Some are measuring benchmarks and scores from the staff survey. So it just depends on each item. It will indicate which survey that item is tied to. And then as far as data, it is done on a school year. So the data that you see presented there is from 23, 24, 24, 25 will arrive this spring.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Any other questions? Because I do have one since we stopped. So I'm going way back to your beginning of your presentation when you talked about under 2A and you talked about recruitment for district employees and how those numbers are, it looks like we're going to reach our goal for those numbers. But then on the other side of it, the job fairs, et cetera, won't reach those numbers. So I've been sitting here trying to figure out how to ask this question. So is it, there's good in the fact that we have people within the district recruiting people to come to the district. So that's a good thing. and especially in a BIPOC population, right? And I know it's difficult. When we started this journey 5 years ago and before, you knew it was difficult to find teachers of color to bring into any district. My question is it a combination of the collaboration piece that you're doing, bringing people together, or is it just these exit interviews? I mean, what are you kind of pointing to as to why it's pretty good on employees recommending people come here, right? So is there something that you've come across that says why, or maybe not be like the one and only thing, but just kind of general?
Yeah, I would say in my experience, I think it's a combination of a couple of things. Number one, I can tell you that we are doing thoughtful and deliberate work in that DEI space that perhaps some other districts aren't doing. As many of you know, I sit down with every new teacher as they come into the district and do kind of a sit down interview. And many of them are coming to us saying, it's because of the thoughtful DEI work that we are doing, and they want to be part of that piece. And they're hearing about that work from folks who work here. The other piece is we have been thoughtful and strategic about communicating to our staff of color and saying to them, we want you. One of our future cultural collab events involves bring a friend, right? You know what I mean? And bring someone alongside. So I think folks are becoming much more comfortable with that. What I'm most proud of, Mr. Turner, is, as you referenced, when we started on this journey, the reason we identified that goal is because we were finding that when we surveyed candidates who weren't of color, they were telling us they were being recruited by staff members at a 60 to 70% clip. And at that time, staff of color were telling us, nope, it's more like 20 or 30%. We now really, as you look at those numbers side by side, it is equivalent or close to, numbers, Bob, year to year, but it is very, very close to equivalent across the board, that regardless of your racial background, your ethnic background, you are being recruited largely by our staff going out and finding you, which is awesome.
Right. And I know we're focused on this because back when we started this plan, it was about equity and trying to get, teachers in front of students that look like them or similar to their culture, et cetera. But it's not to say we don't want, it's not like these are the only folks we're targeting, right? It's just that we would like to increase that number and we put these goals forward. So we're looking for talent regardless of your background. I shouldn't say background because you need to have a good background, but
always looking for the most talented teacher.
Exactly.
Turner, always.
The other question, and I won't belabor this, but we talked about the collaboration, the meetings you were just talking about, bringing teachers together. Have you gotten any, I mean, it's the first year, right? So have you gotten any, like, either positive, negative, anything you can share on, like, feedback from those particular?
We actually have. So during the first meeting, we had a kind of a focus group, so to speak, and we took a survey, gauged their areas of interest. And so where we found is that they're interested more on having more dialogue about equity across the district with regards to students and staff, having those difficult or challenging conversations and coming up with ideas of how we can improve in those areas. Also, they're interested in collaborating with other districts, quite frankly, just networking, benchmarking off of some of their best practices in regards to that. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback. We're trying to get more of them more engaged as far as like advocacy for recruiting more of our minority teachers and administrators to attend. We usually average about 15 to 20 every meeting, but we're going to continue to try to grow in that area. But we have been getting positive feedback. And when we took the survey, we're trying to focus our topics on those areas that they have a particular interest in. But in the presentation slides, I know I only had a few minutes to present about this, but in the presentation slides, it gives you a little bit more detail about what they're really interested in and the feedback we've received.
And again, for the audience that may listen to this and those that are here today, this is not to be exclusive. This is just something to try to generate how can we grow that population within Washington Township. So
And
again,
support the recruitment and retention of.
exactly. All right, thank you very much. I think that's, I held you long enough.
Good evening. I'll be providing an update on our partnerships, specifically our family partnerships. So for family partnerships engagement, administrators and teachers utilize Parent Square for ongoing communication with families. We also host back to school nights at the start of the school year and provide the opportunity for parents to engage with the child's teacher. This year, at almost all of our school events, we held family tech tables. We're staffed by our integration specialists and by teachers from the building. Our goal is to increase family engagement in their students' school experience. We offer training and setup assistance on the apps that the district uses for communication and student performance monitoring. We also created a pamphlet with the QR code so they can take that with them and continue their learning and access more support. This is also available in 6 languages. Later in the semester, our elementary and middle school families are encouraged to participate in one-to-one parent-teacher conferences. Elementary school hosted their conferences on the September e-learning day in order to connect with families prior to the end of the first quarter, and feedback was overwhelmingly positive as this gave parents an early touch point with teachers and the opportunity to help provide support, engagement, and guidance at home. Between 70% and 96% of families participated either in person or online at each of the elementary schools. Middle school conferences were held on the November 5th e-learning day. In an effort to provide greater opportunity for families to participate in the conferences, middle school shifted their schedule on that day to 11 to 7 p.m. to allow the afternoon and evening meetings for families. This approach did not significantly increase attendance, so it will be reevaluated before the next school year. About 1/3 of our middle school families participated in the parent-teacher conferences this year.
Good evening. I will continue to talk about partnerships as my colleague did, but specifically to that of the whole child and how we're involving the community. We heard Dr. Kaiser reference the Panorama survey. And if you look on page 37 in your packet, you will actually see the link to the Panorama survey. The Panorama survey is really working to connect students and parents to the classroom. We are looking to improve supports in academics, behavior, attendance, and well-being. This survey is conducted in the spring, and it is done in a multifaceted approach. So we are using our multilingual liaisons, our social workers, our counselors. We're doing this during case conferences, parent-teacher conferences. This information is going out in Parent Square. There also is a QR code. You're seeing this at events such as our performing arts and our athletic events throughout the district. And lastly, through direct communication. This Panorama survey is then helpful to utilize in our buildings' professional development and their school improvement plan. My colleague Jen Dotson monitors the building level participation and meets with administrators to talk about that participation level. So again, this is surveying, as Dr. Kaiser said, our faculty is being surveyed through Panorama. We then have our families and also our students. New this year, we have worked with Panorama to create a survey that is more inclusive to our students with the most cognitive disabilities. So we now have a Panorama survey for our PACES students that they too can have their voices heard regarding the academics, behavior, attendance, and that sense of belonging. That survey again will continue to open in the end of April, so it will run for a 2-week period, and we will be able to provide you that specific data upon the completion of that survey. Are there any questions for Mr. Kneebone or myself?
Or questions? I will ask one. Oh, sorry, Mrs. George Davis.
Point about the PACES students?
Yes.
I'm just curious how that survey is administered. Is
Yeah,
it
so-
online or is it?
We're doing it in a multifaceted approach, so thank you for asking that. Some of our students are capable of having it read aloud and participating on the computer. Some are doing it by paper, we're inputting it. Some we're doing in a one-on-one fashion where we're queuing. So we did work with Panorama to say that we needed to be inclusive. So we looked at the questions, what was most important, so that we could make sure their voices were being heard, and their parents then could give us that feedback as well.
Yeah, the only other question that I have is, and you may not have the answer today, but I know you just talked about the PACES survey being new, but other surveys, that we're using for ours, this partnership piece, what kind of response percent are you getting when you do?
So unfortunately, I don't have the answer and I can get back to you. I do know that Mrs. Dotson works very closely with administrators. And so on page 28 is where you can see where I listed from last year, all of the new strategies that we're going to employ to continue to update that information. So that is where you will see the multilingual liaisons, those things happening in case conferences, social workers. So page 28, page 28 is where I reference all of those additional strategies that we have put in place. So I will be able to give you that data, President Turner, once we actually complete the survey to see what our new efforts will bestow upon those numbers.
Do you have a baseline before, like?
I believe,
surveys in general, I'm
yes, I
assuming.
believe Mrs. Dotson said, because Panorama says that we as a district are very high within our participation rate. So I believe we were upwards of 50%, which they would consider to be quantifiably statistic. But of course, that's where we added in those additional pieces.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions, board? Hearing none. Thank you very much. And the last item on the agenda is a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I didn't think so. Meeting adjourned.